things that may never happen again in the NBA. Back in 1997, the San Antonio Spurs had just finished one of their worst seasons ever. However, that terrible year gave them the #1 pick in the NBA draft, and with it, they selected Tim Duncan. But what happened next turned that one draft pick into a historic playoff run no one may ever repeat. You see, Tim Duncan wasn't just any rookie. He was a 7-foot machine who could dominate both ends of the floor, and paired with veteran big man David Robinson, they became known as the Twin Towers. Together, they brought the Spurs back to the playoffs and a championship just 2 years later in 1999. But this was just the beginning of something much bigger. The thing is, the Spurs kept making the playoffs year after year. However, it wasn't just because of Duncan and Robinson. They also had Greg Popovich, who had just taken over as head coach just before drafting Duncan. And under his leadership, the Spurs built a culture that valued teamwork, defense, and smart basketball. They didn't rely on flashy plays or superstar drama. They just won games. At this point, the Spurs had made the playoffs 4 years in a row, but the real magic happened when a couple of international players showed up. As it turns out, the Spurs had an eye for global talent. They brought in Tony Parker from France and Manu Ginobili from Argentina, two guys no one expected to become stars. They formed the legendary Big Three alongside Duncan. And even when Robinson retired while Duncan aged, the Spurs kept adapting and continued to make the playoffs year after year while generating 18 consecutive seasons with over 50 wins. In the end, the Spurs ended up making it to the playoffs 22 years in a row while winning 5 championships in the process.